Okay, so this video is going to be on how to recover an SD card. Say you just want to format the card to use it again to do another Raspberry Pi image. So put it into your SD card reader, and if it's already got a Raspberry Pi image on it, it's going to open up. It's going to ask you to format this disk, but you don't want to do that because it should have a boot drive on the SD card already. So if I have a look at this SD card, yeah, there's a boot drive on it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look for create and format hard disks. And the application in Windows is called Disk Management. So what we're going to do now is, these are your devices here. I'm looking for the one that is my SD card. I'm just looking for that now. It'll be that one there. It'll be that disk right there. So just double check the size is 59, so that's a 64 gig card. So I want to get rid of these partitions. So I right click and I'm just going to delete the volume. It's got to give me a warning here. I'm going to delete all the volumes on this disk, on this SD card. Now I'm going to right click and go new simple volume or partition. Just leave everything default and it creates it. Now right click again and format it. Everything will be lost, we know that. So now you have a completely clean SD card ready to use with Raspberry Pi Imager. Okay, now we're going to move on to Raspberry Pi Imager. So in this particular case, we are going to be creating an image for a project called OpenwebRX. So you just wonder whether it might have opened 2 copies. It did. We only need 1 copy. So OpenwebRX. So under Raspberry Pi Imager, we are going to say we are going to use Raspberry Pi 4. It's going to be a custom OS, so in this case it's an image, so we're going to go use custom. We're going to navigate to the folder where it is, so wherever you've downloaded it to on your computer is where it's going to be. And just check that it is the correct image. And looks like it is. So that file's been selected. Now go choose the storage, the location where you want to put it. So I want to put it onto my SD card, my 64 gig SD card. Click next. Now you can click no, clear all settings, and then you can manually configure your SSH and your Wi-Fi and everything to do on your Raspberry Pi. If you want to do it in a GUI, graphical interface, then click here. I've given my host name, I've just called it OpenwebRX. Otherwise you can disable that and it'll just give you a default one. I've set my username and password here. You can actually configure wireless LAN. I do it anyway, but currently I'm running this off an Ethernet connection, so you don't necessarily need that. I've selected wireless region New Zealand because that's where I am. I've selected my time zone for Pacific Auckland and my keyboard for US. Under services, I'm using SSH, so I've enabled SSH. And these are volume. These options here can just stay the same. Sorry about those. Click Save to apply those settings. And I would like to apply the settings, so I'm going to click yes. It's going to tell me that all existing data on the SDXC card will be erased, so that's all good with me, so I'm going to say yes. And it will now attempt to write the image onto the SD card. Depending on your computer, this could take a few minutes. And now it's going to verify the image to make sure that it's all good. Okay, so it's come back and told me that the image was successfully written, so I can continue. I can close the imager now. Okay, now that we've created OpenwebRX image and we've placed it on the SD card and placed it into the Raspberry Pi, that's all booted up. So our next step is to SSH into the Pi, so we will do that. You can actually verify that the Pi is working. And you can do that by, you first have to find out what the IP address is for your Pi. And in my case, it's 192.168.1.102. That'll take me to the, now if you get the page load up for OpenwebRX, you know that your Pi is running on your network and the image is working. Now when you open it up, you're going to have a very select number of profiles. You're going to have a couple for RTL, you're going to have ASPI, and then you're going to have some SDR play. Basically, you're going to have very few. You also won't be able to log in. If you try to log in, nothing will happen. We haven't got an admin user. We have to create that step for SSH. Okay. In order to SSH, open up PuTTY. Type in your host's IP address. You'll get the message and you want to accept it. You want to log in. Put in your username. It will then ask you for the password for that username. And if everything's all good with your username and password, it will take you into the Raspberry Pi and log you in so that you can issue the commands for OpenwebRX. So the first one we want to do is to have a look to see if there are any updates. So in order to do that, we just go here and we're going to just copy this command here. Should be able to paste it straight into PuTTY. Here it is. Okay, so I got a bad on that one. Let's just try it anyway. There we go. I must have spelt it wrong. So it's checking for any updates to the libraries and to the packages, and if there are any, it will tell you, and then you can, there's 11 in fact by the looks of it. So you go with the next command, sudo apt upgrade. Say yes. You could speed it up by just putting upgrade space -y, and it will just automatically go ahead and do it for you. Okay, and now we can do a sudo reboot. Not sure if that's 100% necessary, but I like to reboot my Pi after any update. So now Putty has lost connection, which is completely normal. That will take a minute or two to restart. Okay, and I've gone back into the web interface, and what we can see here is that we're missing some modules that allow us to listen to DMR, DSTAR, NXDN, etc. So we've got the standard ones. We've got FM, wideband FM, AM, LSB, USB, CW. We've even got M17, which is a new ham radio digital mode. We've got FreeDV and DRM for shortwave radio. Under the Digi mode, we've got all of these different decoders. It's quite neat. ADSB, ACARS, HFDL, VDL2 for aircraft. You got your FT8, your FT4, just basically everything. Whisper, just lots of really cool stuff there. So now that we know that this is all working, the interface is up, we now have to send the command for SSH to install the digital modes. So we need to install the AMBE codec. So in order to do that, we go back into our PuTTY again, to the host address. We need to log in. Okay, now we're logged in. We need to issue the command in order to install them. So let's have a look here. So we need this one here. Sudo install. And we'll see if that works. And there it goes. So we just leave that run. That could take probably a couple of minutes for a Raspberry Pi 4. And just leave that to go through, and then we'll do a sudo reboot afterwards. So this is just, there it is. So now we will just do a sudo reboot and say goodbye to Putty. Okay, now that we've done the AMBE codec install, rx.local in your browser, you can start it up. And you'll notice that we have now got some new modes, DMR, DSTAR, NXDN, YSF, the new modes that are added that we can now use. Okay, now that we have got the digital AMBE codec installed, we need to set up a admin account so that we can log into the web interface and configure our OpenwebRX. So it's back into Putty again. Put in your host IP address. Your username. And then we need to issue the following command. So I'll just look for it here. So we need this one here to create the account. And we could just copy that, paste it straight into Putty. And if we get it right, we can create a new password. So I'm going to do that now. It's going to ask you to verify the password. It's now created that login, so I'm just going to reboot my Pi. Okay, so I've logged back into interface, but these are profiles. So the problem with that is that you have to have multiple profiles to be able to pick up different chunks of the RF spectrum, for example. So in order to add profiles, we go into settings, and now that I have created the admin, should be able to just type in admin followed by the password that I set. Now if I did this correctly with that last command that we issued in Putty, I should now be able to log in. And yes, I can. Okay, so in general settings, we can give our OpenwebRX a name, and we can put in latitude and longitude so it knows where it is on the map. And there's general settings in here to do with the waterfall, receiver limits. There's a whole lot of stuff in here. And you know, whether you want the audio and waterfall to be compressed or whether you don't. So that's all good. Go back to the settings tab. SDR devices. This is where you can add, delete, manage your SDRs. Let's just have a look at RTL SDR USB stick, for example. So we notice that we've got a 2 meter profile. So if I wanted to create a new profile, I would click new. For example, let's just do 97 to 98 megahertz, for example. So FM broadcast. The RTL dongle can only do 2.4 megahertz of bandwidth. So let's go. Yeah. FM broadcast. So then we need to set up a center frequency. So I'm going to do that in megahertz. And That one is right there. Sorry, it's a bit hard to read. And I'm going to set it up for 97 megahertz. Then it's going to ask for a sample rate, and we want to do that in megacycles. So we're going to put in 2.4 megacycles. And then we are going to give it a frequency that it can come onto as soon as it selects that profile. And in this particular case, I'm going to give it 97.0 megahertz. And I'm going to select wideband FM because it's a broadcast radio station. I usually just set this one to 100 kilohertz. I'm going to enable device gain, and I'm going to change that number to 20. And then you come down here and apply it. Now, if we go back to the receiver, we should find down the bottom we have one for the broadcast band. There it is, FM broadcast. So if I click it
in the wash, and then and there was also talk that she had the glad eye for some. There was in a magazine that she had the glad eye for somebody else, you know, other than her husband. And
she had the glad eye because most of the allegations about William having the glad eye.
But there it is. There.
Yes, well, that's right. But I only read in a magazine that. I mean, of course, you don't know what to believe because sometimes I think this is fake news, but. And of course, with AI now, you know, it's made
so that's how you add a profile.
It's made things a little bit sort of grey, hasn't it? Or not, or whether it is true. But
so you can basically add as many
what will happen there. You know, we'll find out because we don't know what she went in the hospital for. You know, I know it was abdominal, but that could mean a number of different things, and whether that
if you don't want that though, and you can just delete that profile. You can make as many of them as you like.
You know,
just remember that when you do make a profile for the RTL STR dongle, you have to make sure you set
is on the rocks or not. I suppose.
If Prince William has done what he's alleged to have done, then he's an idiot.
If you take it any further than that,
and as much as
RTL dongle
aristocrats being unfaithful, that not being news, or rather it's news but it's not new, still he's an idiot. You know, there are
ways to look at that.
Okay, so just before I finish this video,
on a board. Do you want to get on a board and talk about boring things like water? I mean, honestly, all the people who can
from that just for now. You can zoom the waterfall out. Excuse me. But we're gonna have a look at some decoding now. See if we've got anything here. We'll go decode some pages on VHF 157 megahertz. So here we go. We have got the pager receiving. There's a pager tone right there. And now we just have to wait until we get a message. And here we go. It's receiving a couple of messages now. There we go, and they're coming in the decoder window. So that's just one of the decoders that's available. There are so many. You have all of these digital modes. You've got ACARs. You've got like everything in here. You can even do AIS decoding, the shipping, traffic, packet radio. So many different decoders built into this. Okay, this is the last video I'm going to make in this series on OpenwebRX for now. So as I was mentioning, you can make up profiles. So the problem with that is that when you make up a new image for OpenwebRX, you lose all your profiles. So what can we do about that? We can use a program called WinSCP. And we can log in to WinSCP. And what we can do is we can look for, you need to go into the following directory in your Raspberry Pi, and I'll show you where that is. Just make sure I get right back to the beginning. So, okay, in the Raspberry Pi OpenwebRX, you need to go to the bottom directory, VAR. Then you need to go to the library directory, LIB. And then you need to go to the OpenwebRX directory. And in there, we need to replace the following files. Bookmarks.json. We need to replace, I believe, the settings one here. And you could replace the users one, although we already just created a user. So probably just settings and bookmarks is all we need to do. So in order to do that, you need to have changed a setting in the application. Because I find that you can't share otherwise. So if I bring this up, it's under, whereabouts is it? No, it's not under settings, sorry. So it is under, okay, so let's try that again. Let's relaunch WinSCP. And this time select the Pi we want to log into. And going to edit. Go to advanced. Now where do we go? And we need to go into the SCP shell, and normally up here it will have default written here. You'll see that it would have an option for default, but we don't want that. We want a command to be issued in here, sudo space s for Sierra, and then you go OK. If you need to, you would save that. I'm just going to cancel because I don't need to do any of that. So once you've done that, just connect. And now we're connected. So then we go to that directory, which was var/library/OpenwebRX. And we just want to replace the bookmarks and the settings in this particular case. So on my local computer, I have got files backed up from a previous OpenwebRX. So I'm just going to highlight bookmarks. And I want settings. You could copy users if you hadn't created that user account that we did in the earlier steps for creating an admin account. So now I'm just going to drag these two files across and drop them. And I want to replace that. And I've now replaced those two files on the Raspberry Pi. So now we're going to putty into the Pi and we're going to reboot it. Okay, so let's just reboot the Pi. That's all we need to do there. So let's just mute the audio. So I restarted the Raspberry Pi OpenwebRX. I logged back into the browser. I didn't create a new user, so let's just go across here. So it's already logged in, so that's okay. It's already logged in. So I was able to log into the existing user. Now what you're going to find different straight away is if I go into General, you're going to find that it has got my call sign ZL2CWA, my location Hamilton. Basically all my settings that I like for my OpenwebRX have been configured the way I prefer them. I'm just going to check that the waterfall is configured. Yep. So it's copied over all my settings from a previous image that I had. And even if we have a look into the STR, you'll see that I no longer have the AirSpy at all. I've renamed my STR play. This is how I set it up in my previous image. My RTL has got a different name. And if I click on the RTL, you'll see that I have a lot more profiles in here than I had in the previous section. The reason for that is that it copied across with WinSCP all of my existing profiles that I did in my old version of OpenwebRX, which basically means I don't have to start from scratch and create all the profiles again. So now you'll notice that all of those profiles are listed here. I am going to look for one in particular. I'm going to have a look at 10 megahertz HF data link for aircraft. So let's go across there. And we will see if we get any decodes from any aircraft. You can see up here that the it is receiving some relatively weak transmissions from some aircrafts right now. And it's just picked up one here. Okay, so we've got some details here on a land Chile aircraft. So if I click on it, it's going to load up FlightAware, and we can see the aircraft is from Santiago, Chile to Auckland, New Zealand. And if we scroll down here, we can see how far through its flight is, about halfway through its flight to Auckland. This is captured directly off the aircraft, which is kind of cool. So it's got all your details about the flight, everything right there. And if I go back to the OpenwebRX and I click on map, we will see whether we have any data that's come in from it. Yes, we have. So there is that OpenwebRX is receiving the Land Chile 801 aircraft. It's at a range of 4,578 kilometers. That's quite cool. And that's directly picked up by my long wire through HF data link. And that position will get updated regularly. You can change the map style. There's quite a lot of new selections. I think I like this one. Yeah, I like this one. So yeah, and as aircraft are received, they will gradually populate the map. At the moment I seem to only have the Land Chile one. So I can go back here, and we've received a couple other aircraft. This one is going from Manila to Honolulu. It looks like a Philippines Airlines flight. And this is just taken off from Manila actually. So this is pretty cool stuff.